Welcome to the very first series of Get Active, Stay Active, the Parkinson's UK podcast. We couldn't be more thrilled to guide you through this transformative 12-week journey. This isn't just a podcast, it's your personal companion to building a vibrant, active lifestyle. Together, we'll dive into expert advice, hear inspiring personal stories, and uncover actionable tips designed to motivate and empower you. Hello, I'm Denise Waterman, and welcome to the Get Active, Stay Active Parkinson's UK podcast. In today's episode, we will focus on managing fatigue and medical symptoms. We'll discuss strategies for overcoming feelings of demotivation and how to approach challenging days when you're struggling to do anything. We'll also explore modifications for on-off periods and how Parkinson's symptoms can impact on your ability to stay active, along with practical tips to help you navigate these phases. And with us today, we have Sarah McCracken and Rachel Peskett. Hello, girls. Sarah is a Parkinson's nurse specialist with over 20 years' experience. She has a special interest in the case management of complex advanced Parkinson's, PSP, MSA, and corticobasal syndrome. Rachel is a Parkinson's nurse who leads a small team of community nurses for University Hospitals, Coventry and Warwickshire NHS Trust. Rachel has a passion for frailty and bladder and bowel issues relating to Parkinson's and has recently set up a patient focus group, which has been really empowering for patients, giving them a voice about how Parkinson's disease services are improved and developed. Ladies, thank you for joining us today. So my first question is to Sarah. How do people cope with fatigue related to Parkinson's during their daily activities?
There's no simple answer to that, but I think the main thing is to listen to your body. It's amazing how people with Parkinson's really understand their bodies, sometimes more than health professionals do. So listen to your body and don't try and fight against it. Think about like routines and structures to your day, and also know when your meds are working. And again, your listeners will be so familiar with when their meds are working and not working. So if you're having an optimal time of day and you think, hey, my meds have really kicked in, then go and do an activity that's enjoyable. It's really tuning into your body and knowing when your meds are working and when you feel good. Things like stretches, meditation, plan activities in the day around your routines and medications. So it's really important to take your medications on time. And that may even be if you're halfway through your walking football tournament or your rugby session, always have your meds available. And even if it's while you're exercising, it's okay to take just before or even during exercise. So don't stop your medication because you're doing an exercise class.
Okay, well, that's all very useful. What strategies should one use to manage other medical symptoms while trying to stay active?
Taking medications on time will help. And people can use timers and smart watches. And also staying on top of your other medical conditions. Make sure you drink plenty of water, don't get dehydrated. And I'm sure Rachel will talk to us at length about avoid constipation. It's the bane of Parkinson's management. If your gut is blocked, your medications don't get absorbed so well. So if you can be in a really good routine with medicines, with food, with drink, with bowels, that will really help your body to be, in tip-top condition. Avoid things like low blood pressure. So sometimes Parkinson's gets blamed for everything, but actually maybe you're someone who's always had a low blood pressure, and then your Parkinson's pills might drop your blood pressure. So, drink plenty of water, elevate your legs when you're at rest, maybe take a little salt in the diet, and just do some like gentle exercises to keep your body in really good condition. But yeah, look after your other medical problems as well, because as Rachel and I both see with our patient caseloads, people don't maybe just have Parkinson's. So if you've got an underactive thyroid, or you've got diabetes, or you've got a low vitamin B12, So it's really good to know your body, know your medicines, and be really switched on to if you've got cramp in your legs. It may not be your Parkinson's. It actually might be that your vitamin D is quite low. So kind of, I think we're thinking now more about the whole person rather than just focusing on the Parkinson's.
And everyone presumably is
Oh,
different.
absolutely. Like Rachel, I've been nursing for about 33 years, and I've been a Parkinson's nurse for 20 of those years. Everybody's different, and everyone's body responds differently to medication, to exercise, to different routines.
Can you share any techniques that people with Parkinson's can use to help maintain their motivation despite all of these challenges?
Okay, well, I've seen this firsthand. Just after lockdown, I was running an exercise program because all the gyms were closed. So I started an outdoor walking group called Nordic Walking for Parkinson's. And what we found was that exercising with others is having an activity or an exercise buddy. And actually, we've raised about £1,000 and run over 100 miles. So yeah, just having a routine as well. So if you normally do a yoga class on a Monday with a friend, that's very motivating. And also have little goals or targets. Maybe have a reward or a treat. So I know some people who would then go off to the coffee shop afterwards. You know, they do the exercise class, but then go for a chat with friends or book into an evening at a spa. You know, have little treats that reward you for this activity and exercise. So yeah, but exercising with others, find your tribe, find your group, and that's very motivating.
I'm going to bring Rachel in now. Rachel, one of the symptoms of Parkinson's, which can affect people's confidence, especially to do physical activity, is problems with bladder and bowel control. So, Rachel, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
So we separate symptoms into motor and non-motor symptoms in Parkinson's disease, and bladder and bowel issues are extremely common non-motor symptoms, and they can have a really big impact on somebody's quality of life, and can often be quite distressing for patients and their carers, and they're often a bit of a taboo subject for people, and they find it a little bit embarrassing, particularly when talking to healthcare professionals about it. And I think it's important to say that constipation and urinary tract infections are two of the main reasons why people with Parkinson's are admitted to hospital as an acute admission. So it's quite important that people understand this and they know what they can do to avoid it. Now, constipation is a prodromal symptom. So by that, I mean that we see constipation occurring many years before motor symptoms start to emerge. So people may not necessarily associate their constipation with Parkinson's disease and think, well, I've always been a little bit that way inclined. Whereas we tend to see bladder problems in more sort of mid to later on in the disease process. Now, we use something called the Rome criteria for constipation, and that's fewer than 3 bowel movements a week with associated straining, bloating, and abdominal discomfort. And you may ask, why does this occur in Parkinson's? And it's largely down to the deregulation of the brain-gut microbiota axis. And by that, I mean that there's a really complex network of biological systems which allows communication between the gut and the central nervous system. And this can lead to a reduction in the gastrointestinal transit. So essentially, the bowel slows down. As Sarah's already said, problems with symptom control as Parkinson's medication isn't absorbed as well. And it can lead to a decreased transit time, erratic absorption of medication, and therefore unpredictability in symptoms. With bladder problems, some of the things that we see are things like an overactive bladder, urinary tract infections, so that there's a lot potentially going on bladder and bowel wise, which can really affect somebody's confidence and quality of life.
How do people recognise if they've got the urinary problem?
Yeah, the types of problems that we see with bladder problems are overactive bladder, tract infection, nocturia. So people may be up a lot in the night or have problems weeing at night. Retention of urine secondary to constipation, and also voiding problems. But of course, this should not affect or stop people from exercising.
Because there are solutions to help people.
Absolutely, yes, 100%.
Rachel, what advice would you give to somebody in a situation that can help them build their confidence if that's how they're feeling and what they're going through?
There are loads of things that somebody can do to help the situation. And I think it starts with understanding why these changes occur. So if somebody understands why something's happening to them, they're more likely to be active in finding a solution to it. Now, Parkinson's UK do some very nice leaflets in relation to bladder and bowel issues, which are packed with really useful information, and also their website as well. So I would encourage people to have a look at this site. As Sarah's already said, take your Parkinson's medication on time and have a really good knowledge of how your body responds to the Parkinson's medication. Build on this knowledge and tailor your exercise to when you are switched on, because it will be a lot easier. We do use something called a non-motor questionnaire. So we send this out to patients before we see them in clinic, and part of that is a sort of tick box exercise, and bladder and bowels are mentioned on there. And it can take away some of the embarrassment of mention it to your team. The other thing that we do use as well are things like a Bristol stool chart, which is a pictorial representation of what different types of stools actually look like and what normal should be. And it's a type 4 if you're interested. And there's also a urine chart that we use as well, and as to what colour your urine should be, because it should be actually clear or a very light yellow. But I would say that some of the Parkinson's medication that we give can colour your urine, so it can make it darker and appear a bit orangey. And that's things like Cinemat or entacapone, Stalevo, those types of drugs. They can also actually stain your underwear if you're having accidents. So sticking to a routine with your bowels and emptying your bladder before you exercise is also helpful in reducing leakage. Trying to stick to a high fibre diet as well. Now, we should be taking around 30 grams of fibre in our diet a day, and 8 of that should be soluble fibre. Now, when I say fibre, insoluble fibre adds bulk to your stools, and the soluble fibre is the glue that kind of keeps the stool together and keeps water in the stool, so it's easier to pass. You can use things like probiotics. Multi-strain probiotics can help improve gut health and the microbiome. And for some people, they do use a synthetic fibre if they're not having enough fibre in their diet. So things like psyllium and inulin can be useful. And then lastly, there are some people with Parkinson's who will need to take laxatives on a long-term basis. This is absolutely okay for them to do that. They need to check with their medical practitioner, their GP or their PD team when adjusting medications for their bowels and laxatives, just so that we can keep an eye on progress to make sure that they're on the right dose. I've got people that I see that take laxatives 3 or 4 times a day, and that is absolutely okay. The most important thing is that we keep somebody's bowels moving.
Okay. But this shouldn't stop someone wanting to stay active. If you can get on top of that, eat those foods, do as you've just told us, they should be able to be active. Is this true?
Absolutely. I think it's like Sarah says, it's knowing your body, timing when you exercise in small chunks to when your medication is working, keeping on top of your bowels, keeping on top of your fluid intake and things.
So, Sarah, when someone feels completely demotivated, They really can't be bothered. They're overwhelmed. What is a good step to get them moving again?
Well, again, it's listening to your body. It's a tricky one, but sometimes just doing a small bit of exercise or an activity can just give a little boost, a little bit of a dopamine hit. So, short bursts of exercise can be beneficial.
I think we spoke about this in a previous episode. You don't have to do a lot if you're not feeling like it, but do something.
Yes. And going back to what we were talking about with Rachel there, exercise itself can help the bowels. By moving, it will get your gut moving. And I have a gut specialist friend who says, get off your butt and think of your gut. And just by moving can really help us. And the other thing is that it's really hard to go to the toilet if you're off. If your meds haven't kicked in, it's actually, almost impossible to open the bowel. So that's me straying into Rachel's territory there. But yeah, just when people feel kind of overwhelmed with no energy and not to be confused with apathy, but just a little short burst of exercise can be beneficial, and it may just give a little bit of energy and a bit of a boost.
Now, I don't know whether this is true, but I did see that if you're struggling to go to the toilet, if you blow a balloon, it makes your body do it naturally. Is this true? And I don't know whether you know. I just randomly found that out today.
I've not seen the research papers on that one. How about you,
right.
Rachel?
Well, no, I mean, your diaphragm is very important in opening your bowels. So I don't know whether there's some kind of connection with blowing that does something to your diaphragm that pushes everything down.
We better not set it in stone, because it might have just been something crazy that I was watching. But I thought it was quite interesting. Sarah, how can celebrating your small achievements, like standing up or doing a few exercises, stretches in the kitchen, contribute to your long-term progress?
Well, I'm just a big believer in keeping moving at whatever stage of Parkinson's people are at. I have a 92-year-old who is really keen to take up Nordic walking around the park. She was an ex-skier, and she's so determined to get out of her flat. So, it's all about like little and often wins the day. Celebrate what you can do, and don't compare yourself to others. Don't meet that other 70-year-old at your Parkinson's group and say, well, he's, just done a park run. Just celebrate your own goals, be kind to yourself. And I would say any exercise or activity is better than none. And just really try to stay motivated and positive and inspired by others. And a really nice catchphrase that I've learned from a women's group in Nottingham. There's some really inspirational women with Parkinson's, and they use the strapline: accept, adapt, and be ambitious. So they're learning to accept their diagnosis. They're adapting to their new world, and they're quite ambitious. I could tell you all sorts of stories about them going off to the Edinburgh Fringe and putting on a play, and running Park Run and presenting at conferences. They're being so inspirational to others. But it's all about those little baby steps, those little wins, that if you can't walk all the way around the block, then go halfway. And a nice example is a lady who did a Nordic walking study 2 years ago is now struggling, but she will come and do just halfway around the lake, and then she'll meet the rest of us for coffee afterwards. And it's just wonderful that she's still involved with the group and having the support of the group.
So it's good that people should keep their eye on the Parkinson's UK website to find out what's new and what's coming up, so they don't miss out. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us today. Sarah and Rachel, you've been very informative, and I'm sure our listeners think so too. But for all of you that are listening, I hope you've understood and taken it all on board, because we're here to support you as you navigate your journey with Parkinson's. Remember, you are not alone, and we're here to help you find your way forward. For more information, resources or support, please visit the Parkinson's UK website at www.parkinsons.org.uk. Until the next time, take care, stay strong, and we'll see you on the next episode.